Yo,
Yeah.
back
At it, guys.
with another one, man. It's time to get
What we
it.
got up now? What was it?
AwakenJP. He said, and I agree with him. I saw this title, I had to do it. He said, people are still standing for Ukraine. Remember that was a big old thing? I stand with Ukraine. That was a big old thing. I stand with Ukraine. Okay.
Didn't even know what it was all about.
At all. I stand with Ukraine. People just willing to jump on whatever democratic, progressive kind of movement because they feel like it's for the people, and it comes in the end. It was for your president.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Y'all stand.
what
Somebody,
is
how about
this
you say we stand with the 10 million that they got?
Why are we over there? What is this about?
How about y'all stand with the 10 million you got?
Yeah, I still stand with Ukraine. I'm not gonna stop. What do you think, I'm gullible or something? There's no way I'm gonna change my mind on that, because the war effort is clearly working. I'll prove it to you. But first, if I could so humbly say so, my standing with Ukraine is very helpful. You've got evil Russian forces trying to take over Ukrainian regions. You've got to push them back somehow, but how are you going to do that? Well, brave people like me, thousands of miles away, stand with Ukraine. Do you not know about military strategies? Oh, and get this, some people criticize me for still standing with Ukraine. Like, what, am I making too much of a difference for you? Does it offend you seeing me be so helpful? But standing isn't all I'm doing. I've also had the Ukraine flag in my Twitter bio since early 2022.
Wow.
I never thought there'd be a worthy replacement for the black square. Could you imagine how stressed the Russian military generals get? They're over there freaking out like, Kevin in Portland just put a Ukraine flag in his Twitter bio. What are we gonna do? Sir, should we raise the white flag? Not yet, but get it ready. It's pretty good, right? Now, it's important that this war ends. And what I mean by that is, it's important that the public continues to support this war going on forever. But the heartless critics say, oh, but there's no good reason for the war to keep going on.
Right.
It's just gonna cost countless lives, hundreds of billions of dollars, and set off the nuclear Armageddon that is World War III.
Look at
All
that.
that is true, but what they're losing sight of is the fact that this war is absolutely necessary to save Ukraine's democracy.
The people of Ukraine deserve all of our attention, our respect, and admiration for the courage that they have in protecting their democracy, and in doing so, protecting democracy writ large.
Hearing people who are controlled.
Nancy's hair looks so dry.
But did that sound backwards to you?
Yeah, it did. They ain't even talking about that no more.
By the military-industrial complex say that over and over again. That's all the justification I need for supporting this war. Trustworthy politicians on both sides of the aisle keep saying it, so naturally, I'm on board. In fact, I think the war is priority number one because, first of all, we must save Ukraine's democracy to save our democracy. And Ukraine being a neighboring country of the U.S. and all, the logic of that speaks for itself. We need to stop at nothing to save Ukraine's democracy, even if that means destroying our democracy.
Right.
Save Ukraine's democracy, a super simple and very legit justification for the war. Because Ukraine definitely has a democracy. I mean, you just look at His Holiness Zelensky. He does things like lock up his political rivals, shuts down churches, bans gay marriage, all the things you have to do once in a while to run a democracy. Oh, and you know how having elections is absolutely essential in order to have a democracy? Well, Zelensky came out recently and said if the war is still going on, which it definitely will be, he's gonna cancel the elections in Ukraine. I mean,
wow.
Him being willing to make that kind of sacrifice to save Ukraine's democracy, that says a lot about his leadership. And assuming the elections are canceled, then who becomes president of Ukraine?
Right.
It wouldn't be Zelensky.
But that's a democracy.
Right.
Oh, he would just stay in power? Yeah, whew. I don't know if he's realized it or not, but that is a very selfless sacrifice. I think he'd retire of him now. I mean, willing to make the sacrifice of keeping himself in power by canceling Ukraine's elections? Now, that kind of selfless dedication to democracy says a lot about his character. I mean, I'm an even bigger fan of him than I was before, if that's even possible. all to save Ukraine's democracy. Now get this, the U.S. has sent over $100 billion in funding to Ukraine to make sure this war keeps going on.
Wow.
That is ridiculous.
It is.
Why haven't we sent more? You can look at rundown cities in the U.S., poverty, people who are going hungry, that
LA.
receive just a small amount of funding from our own government. And I say, with a little bit of money that they do receive, why can't we just send that to Ukraine too? I get pissed that some of my tax dollars go towards America. That's not what I signed up for.
And so you sitting here worrying about the Ukraine and look at the homelessness that has influxed since
the border.
Right.
Sheesh.
How they're setting up the trailers, RVs downtown LA, and now the waste is being dumped in the storm systems, which
Disgusting.
trickles out to the beach, which could be a very big hazard
Cesspit.
to people.
Cesspit.
But you want to fund a whole nother country,
No.
and they need to be handling their own issues.
Cesspit.
You might not know this, but how we're involved in the war by constantly sending money to Ukraine is a strategy to keep us out of the war. And it's working, because we're going to need to keep sending money to Ukraine, or else something terrible might happen, like the war could come to an end or something like that. There's no end in sight to this war because Putin is a monster and Zelensky is an absolute saint.
Man.
I mean, Russia has been wanting to come to the table to negotiate peace talks, but Zelensky has refused. Why? Because who wants peace with a monster when you can just be at war with the monster? I mean, yes, it's known that all it would take to end the war is for NATO to keep its original agreement with Russia by not going into neighboring countries. But that's not what Zelensky wants.
And see, that's been a big thing right there by not keeping the agreement, and Biden wanting to bring in Ukraine into NATO will cause Russia to go and really line up with China and make war over here.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous. Biden, for some money, for the love of money,
Yeah.
for some money,
Sell your country out for the dollar.
for the dollar.
Ukraine not being a member of NATO, Zelensky pulls a surprising amount of weight with them. Just to be clear, I fully support the war going on for as long as it takes, but preferably longer. And the longer it goes on, the more innocent people die. But because I don't see those people with my own eyes, that's just a price I'm happily
That's an
willing
American
to pay
mindset
to
for
continue
real.
to be persuaded into supporting this war. Now get this. Zelensky recently took time out of his busy schedule of cashing checks from the U.S. and canceling elections to meet with Greta Thunberg.
Oh my God.
I mean, two world leaders like that meeting? Incredible. I imagine they were coming up with some genius eco-friendly war ideas. Like, how about instead of using metals for bullets, you use paper to make your bullets? Better for sea turtles, and worked with plastic straws. And instead of body armor being made out of pollutant-rich Kevlar, why not use recycled plastics for your bulletproof vests?
Okay.
And they probably even came up with army tanks that run on dependable solar power that you can only use when the sun's up. And they probably even came up with safe space zones for soldiers on the battlefield who feel emotionally stressed. I can't wait to see all the productive changes that came from their meeting. There's a famous Mark Twain quote that says, "It's easier to fool people than it is to convince people that they've been fooled." I have no idea what that means. But what
Right,
I
that's
do
real,
know
though.
is
That's what's going on right now.
You being fooled.
I'm so committed to appearing to do the right thing that in 10 years, I'll still be standing with Ukraine. Nothing's going to change my mind on that. But the critics of the war, I mean, some people are so foolish. I'll tell you, I think there's two things the world needs more of to be a better place. More redheads and more red light. I don't know about you, but
Man, I mean,
Oh my goodness.
right. And
Father,
that just goes
in the
back.
name of Jesus.
That just goes back to say to discuss, what it just goes back to say where you continue to support a cause that you don't need to be supporting.
At all. We have
Pointless.
no
But you're
business
gonna agree with it
dealing
when
with
we're-
that.
When we need funds for them to be able to mandate the homeless people to be able to get themselves off of the street and become productive citizens in society. I like the idea of putting them in, in I don't know, buildings or where they can get the support they need, get the help they need, clean themselves up, and become productive citizens in society. And those that don't want to,
according to when we saw California Insider, it should be the same thing for the people that were brought over, that are over here from the border side. They have so many city places where old military bases were, and that the military is no longer there. You could put the homeless, all this ravaged homeless we have, you could put them over there and give them resources, put them back into the work environment. You could do the same thing for the people that came from the border. That's what you need to do. It needs to not be on the active territory. It needs to be in the test environment.
That's right. And if they are unwilling to cooperate, then send them back to their country, or send them back to the state in the United States where they originally came from.
Yeah.
And let the state deal with the nuisance.
Yeah.
And those taxpayers in that state deal with it.
Yeah.
I think that's only fair. Because they have resources. At first, I was like, well, where are the resources? No, there's so many organizations that will help and serve the homeless.
Plenty.
And they don't want to receive the help.
Texas, did you know Texas dropped off a busload of immigrants to Kamala's house, in front of her house? I saw it in an article. They had a bus that pulled up full of them in front of her crib.
Wow. I mean, hey, unheard of. But yes, you want to continue to dump money in a place that's benefiting, so you can get the benefits for your family. But I'm gonna sell out my citizens,
and I'm gonna sell out this country,
and I'm
gonna go duck off somewhere, me and my family, because we have security protection for the rest of our lives. Why war has been brought on our land because we did not uphold an agreement, because they had a corrupt president that wanted to involve a country that was not supposed to be involved into the agreement. And then we end up having a big war, and you sitting on your $10 million under a storm bunker somewhere living life,
right,
with security around you. Man, anyway, man, like, comment, subscribe. Don't take a nosedive, but comment down in the section below if you want some more.
Yeah.
I gotta go. I'm angry.